What if I told you that behind the glittering lights and flawless charm of Golden Age Hollywood were secrets so messy, so shocking, that the studios nearly tore themselves apart trying to bury them? Those iconic leading men you grew up hearing about weren't always the polished gentlemen the cameras adored. Some were tangled in forbidden affairs, others hid explosive scandals that could have ruined careers overnight, and a few carried dark truths that never made it into the history books. These are 30 nasty scandals Golden Age actors fought desperately to hide. Let's dive in. 30. Mae West. Mae West built her fame on shock, but the scandal she tried to hide ran deeper than her bold one-liners. Long before Hollywood crowned her a star, she pushed boundaries on stage with plays so daring that authorities dragged her into court. She spent time behind bars, but studios later softened the story to protect her image. Beneath the glamorous persona was a woman constantly battling censors, lawmen, and moral crusaders who wanted her silenced, forcing her to hide how fiercely she fought for control of her career. 29. Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power was adored for his heroic screen presence, yet his private life was a maze of romances studios worked hard to bury. Behind the clean, polished image was a hidden relationship that complicated his reputation, especially during an era obsessed with protecting box office idols. Publicists erased stories, reshaped timelines, and controlled interviews to keep his name untarnished. Power's charm made him a heartthrob, but the truth behind the curtain was far messier, filled with secret affairs and emotional chaos that never matched the heroic roles he played. 28. Lana Turner. Lana Turner lived inside a whirlwind of glamour, but the scandal she tried hardest to hide was darker than anything she ever performed. Her relationship with Johnny Stompanato was explosive, filled with shouting matches and dangerous threats that terrified her. When he died in her home, the studios rushed to protect her image, shaping the story to keep public sympathy on her side. Behind the perfectly styled hair and shimmering gowns was a woman living through chaos, trapped between fame and a violent love she could never control. 27. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge was a trailblazer, but her private life carried risks that could have destroyed everything she worked for. She found herself drawn into affairs that Hollywood's strict moral rules refused to tolerate, especially for a black actress already facing relentless scrutiny. Publicists hid evidence, rewrote interviews, and kept photographers away to shield her from damaging headlines. Dorothy's brilliance on screen masked the turmoil off it, where every relationship became a gamble with her career, forcing her to hide heartbreaks that could have ended her rise in an unforgiving era. 26. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum cultivated a rugged, rebellious image, but nothing prepared Hollywood for the moment he was arrested during a marijuana raid. Studios panicked as reporters circled, ready to destroy his career with headlines that painted him as reckless and unstable. Behind the scenes, executives scrambled to spin the story into something harmless, trying to protect one of their most bankable stars. Mitchum's cool, laid-back persona hid the truth of how close he came to losing everything, with the scandal leaving a permanent mark, no matter how hard they tried to bury it. 25. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton's scandal didn't involve secrets whispered in the dark. It exploded across front pages. Her love triangle with Tom Neal and Franchot Tone turned violent, leaving the studio scrambling to contain the fallout. Executives hid details of fights, injuries, and chaos to keep her career afloat. But the truth was impossible to disguise. Barbara's beauty drew admiration, yet her personal life spiraled into a storm of passion, jealousy, and public embarrassment. The scandal she hoped to hide became the story that followed her forever, overshadowing her early success. 24. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes built an empire on ambition, yet the scandal he concealed was rooted in deep paranoia and obsession. Behind the billionaire charm was a man who spied on actresses, controlled their careers, and manipulated relationships with cold precision. Studio insiders whispered about files he kept, private detectives he hired, and the extreme surveillance he used to protect his ego. While Hollywood painted him as a brilliant innovator, the reality was darker, shaped by dangerous control and unstable behavior that left many terrified of crossing him, even when his influence faded. 23. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow's career looked bright, yet the scandal she tried to hide lived inside her troubled marriage to Paul Byrne. Hollywood painted them as a power couple, but their home life was filled with secrets, tension, and whispers that never stopped. When Byrne died under mysterious circumstances, the studios rushed in, shaping the story to protect Jean from public judgment. They destroyed evidence, silenced gossip, and created a version of events that kept her image safe. Behind the platinum glamour was a young woman trapped inside a tragedy she never escaped. 22. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas became a towering figure in Hollywood, but shadows followed him everywhere. Behind the commanding presence and confident charm were allegations of violent behavior that studios buried with powerful connections. Publicists erased stories, intimidated reporters, and redirected attention to his blockbuster roles. Even as he climbed higher, the rumors grew stronger, creating a divide between the heroic characters he played and the troubling accusations whispered behind closed doors. The scandal he tried to hide became part of the silent history Hollywood refused to acknowledge, shaping how insiders viewed him. 21. Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly became royalty, but before the palace gates opened, she lived a life filled with affairs that studios never wanted the public to see. Directors, co-stars, and even married men were part of the tangled stories hidden behind her graceful image. When she transformed into a princess, handlers worked quickly to erase evidence of her Hollywood romances, crafting a flawless public persona. Beneath the polished elegance was a woman whose earlier choices clashed with her new royal role, forcing her to leave behind a past that could not fit her crown. 20. Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier dazzled audiences with his talent, yet his private life held a storm of affairs and jealousy he never wanted exposed. His relationship with Vivien Leigh was filled with passion, but also constant emotional conflict. Both struggled through betrayals that studios concealed to keep their status as a glamorous couple. Olivier's image as a refined leader hid the chaos he created behind closed doors, where pride and insecurity often clashed. The scandal he buried revealed a man torn between genius and destructive impulses that shaped every relationship around him. 19. Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood's life sparkled on screen, but the scandal that followed her forever came from the mysterious night she died. Conflicting stories, missing details, and shifting accounts created a cloud that studios and insiders tried desperately to control. They pushed a clean narrative to protect the careers of those involved, hoping the public would accept a tidy explanation. Yet the truth behind her final hours held tension, fear, and unanswered moments that raised quiet concern. Her talent became overshadowed by a tragedy wrapped in confusion that Hollywood never fully clarified. 18. Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper was known for his quiet strength, but behind that calm presence were affairs that threatened his career. He became entangled with several married actresses, creating scandals that could have ruined his image as a dependable leading man. Studios stepped in quickly, hiding evidence, paying off reporters, and arranging distractions to protect their investment. Cooper's gentle charm masked the turmoil behind the scenes, where jealousy, guilt, and hidden meetings shaped much of his private life. The secrets he guarded stayed buried only because Hollywood worked tirelessly to keep them quiet. 15. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor lived in a world where passion ruled everything, and the scandal she tried to hide grew out of the forbidden affairs that shaped her reputation. Her relationships with married men ignited outrage, especially when her personal life collided with the careers of others. Studios scrambled to redirect public attention, painting her as misunderstood rather than reckless. Behind the diamonds and flawless beauty was a woman following desire, even when it threatened her success. These love triangles became stories Hollywood fought hard to soften, knowing her fame depended on careful control. 16. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn built an image of fierce independence, yet the rumors surrounding her private relationships created a scandal that studios quietly handled. Her long, complicated connection with Spencer Tracy became a carefully managed secret, shielded from headlines to protect both careers. Whispered stories about her personal preferences and lifestyle added even more tension, challenging the era's strict expectations. Publicists shaped every narrative, ensuring her bold personality stayed charming instead of controversial. Hepburn's strength on screen hid a private world that studios worked tirelessly to keep untouched, preserving her powerful Hollywood status. 15. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift's talent felt almost otherworldly, but behind his brilliant performances was a struggle he tried desperately to hide. After a devastating car accident, he fell into addiction, relying on pills and alcohol to navigate pain and pressure. Studios covered for him, editing footage, controlling interviews, and protecting him from damaging headlines. His gentle face and sensitive roles masked the internal chaos pulling him apart. The scandal of his decline stayed buried behind closed doors, guarded by everyone who hoped his image would remain untouched even as his life unraveled. 14. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth became the ultimate fantasy on screen, yet in real life, she moved through a series of marriages filled with turmoil she tried to hide. She faced emotional strain, controlling partners, and constant tension that studios kept out of the press. While audiences adored her glamour, her personal life grew heavier with every failed relationship. Hollywood wanted her to remain the perfect symbol of desire, so they erased evidence of the heartbreak that shaped her behind the scenes. Rita's beauty masked a lifetime of private battles she carried alone. 13. James Dean. James Dean symbolized rebellion, but his private world carried secrets he never wanted exposed. His reckless behavior, intense mood swings, and rumored affairs sparked gossip that threatened his rising career. Studios tried to manage him, repairing public moments and silencing insiders who spoke too freely. Even as he became a cultural icon, the darker parts of his life stayed hidden, wrapped in carefully crafted publicity. Dean's cool, untouchable image covered the instabilities beneath, creating a contrast that defined both his legacy and the scandal he tried to keep buried. 12. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner's beauty drew admiration everywhere she went, yet her private life held explosive moments Hollywood fought to hide. Her marriages to powerful men were marked by shouting matches, jealousy, and nights that spiraled out of control. Studios stepped in constantly, cleaning up scenes, stopping leaks, and reshaping stories to protect her glamorous image. Behind the confident attitude and sharp wit was a woman trying to navigate love while drowning in chaos. The scandal of these turbulent nights stayed hidden only because Hollywood had the muscle to bury it. 11. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy carried a respected image, yet his private world was far more fragile than anyone knew. He battled alcohol addiction for years, slipping into periods of heavy drinking that studios worked hard to disguise. Behind the scenes, his troubled marriage and his deeply hidden relationship with Katharine Hepburn added layers of complication. Publicists shielded him, steering interviews away from anything personal while guiding photographers to avoid compromising moments. Tracy's calm, powerful presence on screen hid the turmoil he carried, creating a silent scandal kept buried by Hollywood's protection. 10. Bette Davis. Bette Davis became famous for her fire, but that same fire ignited scandals she tried to keep quiet about. Her legendary feuds with co-stars and directors often turned into shouting matches that threatened productions. Rumors of her temper spread quickly, forcing studios to manage her image with extreme care. Behind the dramatic eyes and fierce performances was a woman constantly battling frustration, ambition, and ego. Publicists softened stories, hid confrontations, and pushed narratives that framed her as simply passionate, masking the chaos she sometimes created in the shadowy corners of Hollywood. 9. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin brought laughter to the world, yet the scandal he tried to hide was darker than his comedic genius. His relationships with underage girls sparked public outrage and legal trouble that threatened to destroy his career. Studios scrambled to defend him, manipulating headlines and arranging deals to keep the worst details quiet. Behind the bowler hat and playful charm was a man whose private behavior clashed sharply with the wholesome image audiences adored. Hollywood protected him because he was profitable, burying a scandal that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. 8. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was adored as a symbol of purity until her affair with director Roberto Rossellini erupted into a scandal that shocked audiences worldwide. Her image collapsed overnight, and politicians even condemned her publicly. Studios panicked, distancing themselves as they tried to salvage her reputation. Bergman's graceful roles made the backlash even harsher, with many insisting she had betrayed her screen persona. Behind the elegance was a woman simply following her heart, yet the world refused to separate the actress from her characters, turning her private mistake into a global scandal. 7. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando changed acting forever, but his personal behavior created scandals he never wanted exposed. He was known for violent outbursts, unpredictable moods, and relationships filled with turmoil. Studios struggled to control him, balancing his unmatched talent with the chaos he brought to every set. Publicists hid stories of fights, affairs, and emotional explosions, shaping him into a misunderstood artist rather than a volatile figure. Brando's brilliance masked the turbulence beneath, creating a legacy built on genius and destruction that Hollywood tried to manage rather than reveal. 6. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe symbolized desire, but the scandal she tried to hide involved secret affairs with powerful men whose reputations depended on silence. Her connections to political figures, influential executives, and dangerous insiders created a web of risk that studios worked desperately to control. Leaked calls, hidden meetings, and sudden disappearances fueled rumors the public never fully understood. Behind her bright smile and breathy charm was a woman trapped between fame and forces far bigger than herself, with Hollywood shaping a softer narrative to mask the darker truth surrounding her life. 5. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson rose to fame as the perfect romantic lead, yet the truth he hid was the secret life he lived away from the cameras. His studio crafted a wholesome image, arranging dates and public appearances to keep rumors from spreading. Behind the polished smile was a man constantly forced to hide his real identity to protect his career. As pressure built, Hudson relied on careful management, scripted interviews, and strict rules designed to shield him. The double life he carried became one of Hollywood's most carefully protected scandals. 4. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford embodied power and glamour, but the scandal she tried hardest to control centered on accusations that challenged everything she projected. Behind her sharp style and commanding presence were whispers of abusive behavior that threatened to destroy her legacy. Studios worked tirelessly to prevent damaging stories from reaching the press, keeping her image elegant and untouchable. Crawford demanded perfection, and her intense discipline at home fueled the rumors even more. The truth behind her private life stayed buried through fear, influence, and Hollywood's relentless desire to protect its stars. 3. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn lived as the wild, charming adventurer audiences adored, yet his real-life scandal nearly ended his career. Accusations involving underage girls sparked a courtroom drama that drew nationwide attention. Studios launched an aggressive campaign to protect him, employing lawyers, spinning stories, and shaping public opinion with deliberate precision. Flynn's reckless lifestyle had finally collided with Hollywood's limits, forcing insiders to scramble. His acquittal saved his fame, but the stain of the allegations never fully disappeared, becoming a dark shadow he worked to outrun for the rest of his life. 2. Judy Garland. Judy Garland's voice warmed hearts, but the scandal she carried came from the brutal control studios held over her. From a young age, she was pushed into exhausting schedules, given pills to stay awake, and medicated again to sleep. Executives treated her like a product, hiding the toll it took on her body and mind. The public saw a sparkling young star, unaware of the manipulation behind her performances. Garland's struggles with addiction grew from the system that claimed to support her, creating a heartbreaking scandal Hollywood quietly protected. 1. Clark Gable. Clark Gable represented rugged charm, but the scandal he hid involved a child the world wasn't supposed to know about. During an affair with co-star Loretta Young, a pregnancy occurred, and studios moved swiftly to cover every detail. Young disappeared from the public eye, the baby was hidden, and elaborate stories kept Gable's name out of the news. Hollywood protected its leading man by burying the truth for years, leaving the child to grow up without recognition. Gable's iconic image survived only because the scandal was sealed behind studio walls. These scandals weren't small slip-ups, they were the kind of explosive secrets that could have shattered entire careers if the truth ever slipped out. And yet, the studios kept pushing the perfect image, hoping the world would never look closely enough to see the cracks. So now the real question is this: if these 30 scandals were kept quiet for so long, how many more are still hiding in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? If you're ready to dig even deeper into the secrets Hollywood never wanted you to know, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next.